Mr. Solheim, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Yeah.
You don't sound good. You sound strained and
No,
stressed.
no, I'm just really ill.
Really ill, and you're still doing this? Are you
Yeah.
sure?
I've been ill for 3 weeks. It doesn't
Oh,
get better.
oh my gosh. The goats, is the Arista meta hurting you that badly? Like,
Yeah, it's really bad.
it's
I just
physically
look at
broken you.
I just look at pictures of goats every day, just reminiscing.
Oh my gosh, there needs to be a goat's pill or something like that.
Yeah, everyone thinks I should love this meta because there's so much Doomfist, but I absolutely hate it.
Yeah, it's a little dull. Not as it's like, how were your halts? Good, you win. How were your halts? Bad. Your Doomfist is bad, you lose. That's kind of like the checklist. But
Yeah.
so we do have a GM Doomfist VOD. Sin has been an old coachee of mine for a long time. He's worked his way up from like high plat, low diamond, Genji one trick, expanding his hero pool. He hit top 500 recently. And so he's obviously kind of working on his Doomfist. Last time we worked on his Doomfist, we talked a little bit about his pathing, but it's been a long time since I've kind of looked it over. So basically, you basically already answered this question to me in the DMs, but I want everybody to hear it because I always want my guest's perspective. When you're coaching a Doomfist, like let's say a GM Doomfist, what is generally the thing that you're going to be looking for in that Doomfist play to fix, like right off the bat?
Well, it's a thing that every single Doomfist, except maybe the top two Doomfists
By the
in
way, who do you
WoW, do.
who are those? Who do you think those are?
Who? No, Sinatra is for sure the best.
Okay.
And then every now and then someone comes close to him.
Okay.
And the reason Sinatra is the best is because he doesn't try to be insane,
Mm-hmm.
right? Doomfist has tons of mobility, and then therefore he has to be a dive hero, right?
Mm-hmm.
But no, Doomfist is not a dive hero. He is an anti-dive hero with the option to dive.
Mm-hmm.
And that misconception, feeling that you have to use your mobility to just jump around and do insane plays and do insane things, is not right. If that was the kind of hero Doom was, he would be bad against goats. Yet he is the go-to pick, was the go-to pick against goats for any DPS.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes
Um,
sense.
like the only thing Doomfist is better at than anyone else in the game is tank damage. He is really good at destroying front lines,
Mm-hmm.
and he can assassinate backline. But once he does that, he's kind of like, what do I do now for the next 6 seconds? I'm probably going to die.
Mm-hmm.
So it's either you trade or you die. Or you can just punch the enemy tank over and over and over and over again. The enemy team has no space, and therefore they are forced to play Rissa because they have no ability to take space, they have no ability to dive properly because you're just stopping them from their tanks from creating space with DPS, which forces the enemy team to play Doomfist because the best counter to Doomfist is Doomfist because he's absolutely broken.
Okay.
So the biggest thing to look at in any Doomfist is timing, and that they don't feed.
Okay. We'll check it out because like off the top of my head, my first reaction like best Doomfist. I'm like, oh, Hacksaw, but you're right. Hacksaw does
I think
end
that
a lot.
council is terrible.
You,
I
he
think
does
it's
end a
I
lot.
think I think his timing is terrible. I think his decision making is terrible, and
Ooh.
his team makes up for it by being hyper aggressive. But we
Uh-huh.
see in the finals, like if the enemy Doomfist knows how to punish a Doomfist, and I remember watching on my stream this clip. I think it was Soul Dynasty against Titans, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
where Soul Dynasty's Doomfist just completely ruins Haxel over and over again, but they still lose because Vancouver Titans generally better team.
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay, do you press tab so I can see your heroes? Or do you just
I
stop working?
don't know.
There you go. Gotta love Q.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're playing Sigma Rissa. Like your first idea should always be to scout out what the enemy is doing, try to figure out what comp they're playing, and usually you don't want to run around in the flank before you know, because against most things you do not want to flank. Once you like, the way you need to think about flanking is, as long as you're not with your tanks and you're not trying to kill someone, your team is one man down if you're going to flank. So all the time that your team spends standing in, I'm going to choose a better color, spend standing in this area while you're walking around, all this time that you spend here, your team is one man down. So either you need to walk around before your team walks in, so they're hiding on the other side of the choke, and you need to call for that if you want to go for a flank, which I do not advise. or you need to stay with them because they could be pushed on. So like most teams will not do this in a professional team environment. They would. The instant someone is flanking, straight up and pushing on them. Flanking is a time waste, and you need to set it up.
And like you said, unlike somebody like Tracer or Sombra, who benefits tremendously from being backline, you don't have to play backline. You can play. You don't, like you said, you don't always have to dive. You don't always have to flank. You have that with Doomfist. You have a lot more flexibility. So, like you said, if you're not able to stage in time, then you just need to play brawl. You just need to play with your front line.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, this is really tiny things, but it's a lack of information. I would never use or advise to use cooldowns to get anywhere until you have the information that going somewhere is safe. If you go up here and there's a McCree hiding in the tunnel, or there's a Genji on the other team, or there is another Doomfist that has cooldowns on the other high ground, all of those will just straight up kill you here. If you, is there, let me just go back a second. I think there's a way for you, if you want to, because the uppercut is really important, because if you have your uppercut when you reach that high ground, you can always survive until you have your other cooldowns, because you can dodge up on the roof. If you start here instead, and you punch toward this car, and then you press the space, it will bounce you up, and you can E to the high ground instead. And if there is someone there, you uppercut and slide on the roof until you have cooldowns again. Like when you go to a high ground, if you can use your right click and your E, you want to do that instead of using your uppercut, because your uppercut is your get out of jail free card move. It allows you to get above things, it allows you to hide, it allows you to be in like a position for such a long time that they cannot kill you, that you regain your cooldowns. So it's the cooldown you should never use to get anywhere if you can. And I remember I hard flamed Sinatra for this when I water reviewed him on Numbani, and he ended up dying to an Ana because he used his uppercut to get to
it was
high
on
ground.
first point, and he was supposed to punch off of the payload, right?
Yeah.
I watched that VOD.
Oh my god! I hard played and went into the game and showed my stream how to do it, and it's like it's so easy. It's just learn to punch off cars, right? It's not that hard. It's all about like once you know the timing, it's really simple.
You hit space right before or right as you hit the target. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then it needs to be like a slight curve on the thing you hit as well. But most cars, mostly anything, you can do it off.
Okay.
But yeah, I would use my my punch and my E instead. And if there is someone there, you uppercut and slide on the roof until you get cooldowns back.
Okay. Makes sense.
But okay, there is no one here. You don't get punished. It's all fine. Your team is not going. You're flanking. Okay. Let's talk about angling. There's a lot of small things. So, right here, I am not sure why you're going for this angle. Like, you're on the high ground, right? And there's no one contesting you. As long as you stay right here, they can never push your tanks. If they push your tanks, you can just drop straight down. And it gives you much more options. If you go on the side, you only have one option. The important thing of Doomfist is that you can do so many things with his mobility. You can do so many things with his you can do so many things with his abilities because they're versatile. Their mobility, their damage, their CC, they are quote unquote health gain. And limiting yourself to only one, which is I hope there is someone here that I can punch so that they do not push my team and kill them before I do anything. Which is kind of the plan you end up with going like this. You also do not have the option to properly E because there's a doorway and you will get stuck on the doorway if you E out here. So you actually only have the ability to either walk out without any abilities or punching. And that car, you're never going to be able to punch someone off. I would have gone to the high ground on this side now.
Okay.
Because so you've gone in and you've taken the space and you forced them back, but your DPS is also going to die because you saw your Reaper was in terrible position. So you need to find a way to enforce pressure more, which gives you the option to drop off multiple places, and also gives you an escape route if the fight goes really poorly. Because you don't really gain information from the way you're playing, because you aren't seeing anything. So you don't know how the fight is actually going at this stage. You only saw, okay, my Reaper is probably dead in that position. So I either need to find a way I can provide more pressure, which would be here, or a way out. And if you're able to hide behind them, they don't know where you are. Your team is resetting. They're walking back in. You'll be able to. They won't be able to push your team because you will not. They need to find out where you are. So I would have taken the high ground on the opposite side here just to change up the fight.
Okay.
Because every single time you make a rotation, so it's like I'm going to talk about it in the same way with goats because people understand that more. If one team makes a rotation, that forces the other team to respond. Right? So if one team goes left, the other team has to go right to mirror them, or they have to do something else, you have to push, whatever. It's the same with Doomfist, just much better, because it's not a big bulk of people, and you have to adapt to only one position. If you're able to take another position without losing anything for it, and you're also safe, that's important, you can do almost anything on Doomfist as long as you don't die. And it's a very basic rule, but as long as you do not die, every play is fine.
Okay.
Kind of. So I would do that just to try to make up for my Reaper dying.
Okay.
Which, but normally I would agree with what you're doing here and going back. I do not like that ability usage, but I guess you see why it's awkward.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like you're up one. All you have to do now is not feed, and you win.
Yeah,
and when
exactly.
when you slam in here, like you're now like that signal turns around, and if he has rock, like you die, and then potentially your team loses. So all you need to do is slam out, and then wait for your abilities and go back in again. Am I correct?
Yeah, or just take the high ground again up here and deny this escape route so they can't regroup and soft reset. But who soft resets in the GM?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. Who soft resets like in even scrims?
I swear that Moira's deaf.
Probably. But okay. Ethane point.
Okay. Nice.
Now, what are you gonna do next fight? You're just sitting here. Are you not gonna set something up?
He set it up all right. He beat the car. Oh no. Uh-oh. Oh no. Oh, it's a dunce cap, chat. It's a dunce cap. I thought you said punch. I'm like, what the heck? It's a dunce cap. Nice. You got a dunce cap.
Yeah, he deserves it now. Okay, good. I like that. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Why would you not take the high ground again to set up? Again, it's the same thing. Denying the soft reset, denying them to backing off, taking a position where you are safe. Like, they're going to be forced to back off anyway. So why would you not take the high ground back with ultimate? Like,
and not
I
even,
really like
not even
initial
with
play.
not even with a halt either. Like there's no.
Yeah.
Oh. It's like a low risk, high risk, low reward.
It's not even that. It's just no reward, no risk. It's like it's nothing. It's just yeah, you wasted your ultimate. Nice.
Yeah.
Like sure, you won the fight. You gained 20 seconds of push time. It's a good play, but it's still not that good. Like it could be so much better. You could have gained a minute if you take the high ground and you go back and you drop down behind them. You punch the tank in. Aristo's going to be forced to fortify anyway here because he's backing off. So when your team pushes, he's going to be forced to fortify. You wait for the fortify to go out, and you drop from the high ground. You punch someone into your team, and then you uppercut and go to one of the many high grounds here.
So you are saying you want him to ult onto the top of the building?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would 100% want him to ult. Like every time you have the chance to go back to a high ground, you do that because even if Doomfist has good cooldowns to get to the high ground, you don't want to use them to get to the high ground.
Right.
And Doomfist on the high ground is so much better than Doomfist on the low ground.
No, why is that? Is it like drop punch opportunities more?
Yeah, it's harder to punish you when you are out of reach, and the enemy team has no reach. Like the Doomfist is their only reach, and as long as you're on the high ground and he's not, he has to use cooldowns to get to the high ground. In which case, you should always kill him.
Right.
So every single hero in their comp has no reach, and if the Reaper goes for you, you just win the fight by then not having tank pressure and your tanks walking into them with the Reaper. And you can just drop and get out and do some damage to the tanks, whatever. Like, the amount of cooldowns you force by being on the high ground for them to deal with you is not worth for them to do, and therefore you're free.
Mm-hmm.
It also gives you the option to rotate, drop different places. Like, it just gives you so many more options of what to do. You can even go Assassin Doomfist with your E if you have a backliner like a Mire without a fade, whatever. Like, you can play old school Doomfist like that. Like, there's so many options of what to do. When sitting on the low ground, it's like, I'm gonna punch tanks. That's your only option when you're sitting here. But yeah, no, if you use your ultimate, I would always go high ground, especially on like an area like this where there's a 3-layer high ground, where there is the top of the roof, there's balconies, and then the ground. And if you're able to get, like, if you are on the low ground, you go up to the high ground, you can engage into the bottom tier and then go back to this middle one.
You're right, you can uppercut slam.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So you can always get out in a way, and you will always be safe. And there's no way they can punish you because they're playing Orisa Sigma. Orisa Sigma is a really strong tank duo. It's just they don't really have reach. You went to the high ground. I'm very happy with you.
Uh-oh.
And then you go in with your, oh my god. Oh. That was almost really good. Like you don't need to do this, and it's fine to do that. It's just like you should be preparing for next fight. You should be setting up to do something. You should be going somewhere to intercept the stagger. Like you don't need to deal with the tanks. The tanks are dead. Your tanks are chasing them down. Use your mobility to deny the resets and extend the time until they can fight again. Like, this is something I learned from playing with work with Danit, who's a really good Doomfist player. He was, I think, number 1, 2, and 5 on ladder. Jeez. Back when you could have multiple accounts in top 500. And he was really good when playing Doomfist. It's just, okay, we want to fight. I'm just going to go and kill everyone in the spawn now. Because people walk out of spawn too early while waiting for respawns. You're going to get a pick.
See, I hadn't thought about that. Like, you know, the people trying to back up are already dead. But the people that are, like, coming out of spawn to try and help the people that are coming back, you can actually kill those. They're not paying attention. They've used cooldowns to get out of spawn. That's a cool idea. I hadn't thought about that.
And Doomfist is just like, okay, I'm just gonna munch you around the corner. Like, there's nothing you can do about that. There's no counterplay to me because I'm Doomfist. And in the comp that people play, like, Moira can fade, sure. And then Doomfist just gets out, and it's like, okay, nothing really happened. If Doomfist kills the Moira, it's like insane. But Doomfist should always be looking for staggers because he's so self-sufficient. It's like Tracer. Tracer's spawn camping people. When like you're sitting at the end of 3rd point King's Row as an attacking team and you're just waiting to regroup, but the defending Tracer sitting in your spawn camping your Shinjata.
Right.
Your Doomfist can do this. The Doomfist and Tracer are both super self-sufficient because of their mobility, their ability to quote-unquote gain health, and their ability to play around health packs. They do not need any tanks or supports. They can create their own space. They can sustain their own HP. They can just straight up kill you with an insane amount of damage. Use the tools that you have. In a fight where it's 6v6, you're a tank buster, but everything else, you're a Tracer, kind of. Which is why he's really good with Tracer. So, yeah.
Makes sense.
No, I'd like you to look for way, way more just stopping the enemy from coming back. You can probably reduce the amount of fights on a map on average by 1, and sometimes as much as 3. By just, like, getting free space and card. Nice. Now stay here. Why do you go back? There's no reason to. Just set up on the high ground, like, up, like, there, you know? Like the video room. Just try to set up somewhere there, because they're going to be forced to walk out a small door. If they start walking out, your team starts to hold them, they're forced to stand here to mirror them, and then you just bam into their backline. There's nothing they can do about it. And this is like one of the opportunities where you want to flank on Doomfist because they're sitting in a narrow choke. You will never get value from just punching in here unless they're playing Reinhardt. But why would you pick Reinhardt? Like, if you want to play a fun hero, pick Winston. He's actually good. I guess his position is fine as well. Oh no. Good timing. Could you have gone... Could you have gone to the other high ground? Yeah, I would have gone all the way on top.
You could have.
Yeah, I would have gone all the way on top instead. But yeah. Just because, like, grouping over the Sigma here is like, I would not have gone through here. I would have gone all the way around because enemy team is already forced cooldowns, and your team does not have the cooldowns to mirror, so they're not going to push. They're going to try to kite, I guess. And you have better positioning. That's it setting up, and you force the Reaper out. So again, you have no information here. Take your time. There's no need for you to stress. Look at your HP. Like, you need to take your time. Just, if you can delay every point by half a second and then increase how many you hit by 10%, that's worth it. And make sure you hit the right targets. Make sure you have wait somewhere to go afterwards. Just take your time with your punches.
So I'm thinking here that he should have gone for the Orisa instead. Would you agree?
I think it doesn't really... Oh. What?
Yikes.
I think it doesn't really matter who he goes for here. The fight should already be won by the positioning they have compared to the... Because these people here, they're just like sitting there. There's nothing they can do about it anyway.
Yeah.
They're gonna die eventually from being in like a garbage position. And the only thing you need to do here is to not die.
Okay.
Yeah. Living provides more pressure than trying to make a bad play. I remember trying to prove this on my stream. That if I play as a DPS, just to not feed, and I don't do anything, like I did literally nothing for the whole stream and I went like 9-1.
Huh.
They were just so scared of me sitting behind my tanks. Like, you don't need to make plays. You just need to chill. And then you die, because you use all your cooldowns on nothing. Like, at least don't go back to where you were. At least go, like, around this corner, or up on this high ground, or try to get inside this doorway behind them. Use the environment as well. Don't just go back to where you were. There's some risk here, there's a Lucio here. They could have killed you with no cooldowns, and there's a Doomfist as well. You don't know that, but it ends up being.
Right.
But even with just Orisa, you should have died. Just go where there aren't people. Because your reach is really, really long. Yeah.
Break shield, we win.
You might actually lose this fight now because you've had.
Would you have agreed with him slamming back to his team there instead?
I don't think it's optimal. It would be fine, right? Like, I have this concept that I talk about a lot, which is you have one optimal play, one terrible play, and one never wrong play. And if you always do the never wrong play, you're never going to do anything wrong. But you're sometimes going to lose fights because you needed to carry.
Right.
And the optimal play and the bad play is often the same. It just depends on how you're able to execute it.
Right, that makes sense.
So, like, punching tanks is never wrong. But sometimes you need to kill the backline. But if you punch the tanks in a fight where you should have went for the backline, you might still win. But if the optimal play is to punch the tanks and you go for the backline, you just feed and lose the fight for your whole team. So you need to decide what you need to do, and it depends on the players in your team, depends on the players in their team. It's like stuff you notice in the game. How aware is their Moira, which is she's completely fucking oblivious in this whole bot. Right? She's just stupid, which means that you can probably go for backline more than you would in a normal game.
Status and cooldowns as well.
Yeah, and how is the Orisa using her cooldowns? Orisa just saving her fortify for whenever you punch. Why do you not just hold your punch and she will never fortify and she will just die from not fortifying? And if she does use her fortify and starts using it early, then you just punch her afterwards. So if you just wait with your cooldowns, the Orisa's just going to die. Right? The way these players play provides you with such an easy way to punish them. Like, this Orisa is so punishable because she's so scared of you. So just hold your punch. She's never going to fortify, and she's just going to die from random damage. You just won the fight by not doing anything. So, yeah. No. I think going back to the team is the never wrong play, and I think the optimal play is usually take an off angle if you know it's safe.
Okay.
Oh, why did you use your uppercut? Yeah, I guess the fight is over, but it wasn't when you used your uppercut. I would have gone around the corner and tried to make a play, because you need to make sure this fight is a win, but you end up losing it before you get there anyway. It doesn't really matter, so now you just set up to wait for next fight. Now you just need to not die and hope someone doesn't come here. Okay, oh no. Oh no. No, you're... So what I would do in this fight, because their Doomfist has just been looking for you and going off angling, I would do what's called lingering. Lingering means that you lag behind your team and wait for the enemy Doomfist to go in, just to completely ruin him when he goes in. So you just wait for the sound cue of the enemy Doomfist, and when you hear him charging his punch, you start charging yours, and then you try to figure out where he is. Because the instant he goes for the punch, either you're going to stun him in the middle of your team, you're both on the ground, or you're going to punch him while he's punching, meaning that he dies.
Right, counterpunch in your back.
Yeah, right. If the enemy Doomfist is super aggressive and he goes for rollouts and he goes for placing your backline and is super aggressive, you just linger behind your team, and every time you hear his punch, you just start charging it up and then try to find him.
Makes sense.
It's usually super obvious where he's coming from. And once you learn the timing of that, it's super easy and super consistent, and it's like a free 1 kill every fight. No, okay. No. Okay, the Sigma's feeding. That would have been so bad if they didn't drop.
Yeah.
Okay, you're going back to the high ground. This is good. No, don't drop all the way down. No. If you drop to the balcony there, that's really good.
Because your team could have healed you, but you weren't, you know, punishable necessarily.
Oh. They could have, but you don't punish them dropping.
Okay.
They just use Sigma.
This is like super awkward because you're not playing with your tank line at all. You're taking a lot of like unnecessary angles, taking a lot of unnecessary spam. You use your if you want to get to the high ground here, okay, new rollout. You can roll out at the back of this thing, punch it, go all the way up, and then use your E, and then have uppercut still. There's always a way to roll up to the high ground. There's always a way, okay? Like, Doomfist is super cheesy.
I both down.
If you can use your punch and E instead of your uppercut, you always do that.
Go.
I do not mind that. I think that's a good usage of cooldowns. Aww. I also really, this is the exact position I wanted you to take the last time you were in the position of, like, when you died inside this room. You went in like this and you missed your punch. You just gone in here. Look at how good this positioning is for you. The fight is going on outside. They have no LOS on you. You have the option to go to either side. You have the option to run away, same as we talked about in the first point. If you start winning the fight, they can't run away because they're going to walk into you, and you don't want to run into a Doomfist. So, and since you have advantage in this fight, this is really, really good. You also need to melee more between your opponent's shots. Just go to the high ground. You already won the fight, or land on the payload to force the tanks away. Like, the Doomfist has to come to payload anyway here.
That felt like such a lazy ult.
Yeah, it was just like, whatever. Like, you wasted it. Didn't gain anything. Can I comment to someone in your chat?
Please.
I saw.
Please.
Yes. It's someone from my stream. Jumper, learning not to feed is something you need to do for sure. Okay, that's it.
Oh no. Get wrecked, kid.
Okay, I'll talk about the rollout here as well, because it's like you just need to know these. It's like, it's super basic. You punch off this, and then you just E on here. Just get on the high grounds. Like, just get on them.
One person on card.
You waste so much time walking around here instead of setting up. Like, you have no problem with your positioning, and also they can see you from their spawn.
Pull Sigil. Just wait for cart, Oh, you're fucking
Let me know when you're about.
They can still see you through this door. Like, your hitbox is fucking huge. Right? So, yeah.
Yeah, just pull on him or do whenever. Do it.
If you wait for the pull there and go in with the E, that's like 100 extra HP. Like, that's good. You also use like I don't know. You're just not doing anything.
There we go. Dude, who's gonna...
It's a good escape punch.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is fine positioning. They're up in the air. All attention is focused on them. I would walk around the side.
Walk in, walk in, walk in.
Going.
No. Okay, if your team did not push there, you are so dead.
Yeah. Can you explain in chat why?
Okay, so rewatch this. 4-second cooldown. 4-second cooldown. There's 4 seconds there where you are not doing anything. If he waited 3 seconds by doing that play, he would know how the fight was going, and he would have cooldowns to get out again if he needed to.
Mm-hmm.
But when you use both your E, like if you look at the cooldowns being used here, in which order they're being used, because it's a really important idea about understanding cooldown management. Your E is 6-second cooldown. Your punch is 4-second cooldown. Which means that if you punch first into a slam into a punch, you will usually have time to do that in the same fight before you die or needing to use your uppercut. But if you slam into uppercut, you will have a 4-second downtime of not doing anything.
Right.
Which is why in a longer fight, you would want to use your punch first to get in double rotation of it.
Mm-hmm.
So you would punch into slam into uppercut into punch.
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot slam into punch into uppercut into slam.
Right.
Because there's a difference in cooldown times.
Right.
So it just matter which order. If you see an opportunity to like in, kill a squishy, get out with your right, sure, that's fine. All your 3 cooldowns, you just get a kill, get out. That's a fine way to do it if you have the chance to. They don't have the cooldowns, whatever. So usually just on a Zenyatta or Lucio or some squishy without any CC or mobility. But usually you just want to go in with your right click to get a cooldown back up again. If you want to hard commit to a fight. So if you want to hard commit, you punch first. If you want to soft commit, you E first. It's just cooldown management. So you just need to make sure you have DPS uptime, which is the same reason I think Ashe is trash, because her reload is so long, she has a long DPS downtime, and it's the same with Doomfist if you do not manage your cooldowns properly.
Going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on horse. 6.
It's fine.
I like this position.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's fine. I think it's my second favorite after inside here.
Okay.
But it's fine. It's just if you sit here, you can just when they're coming out of spawn, you will hear them and you just bam punch them, and it's like, yeah, screw you. While here you're only contesting really the payload, and this angle right here is too long for you to have value on. While holding inside here, you have a short angle into the doorway, and you have the option to go here. You have the option to go up and drop. So this leaves you with fewer options on the other side, but it's good, right? It's fine.
Sense. Yeah.
It's a matter of
Right side.
it is usually fine. It's safer than inside the stairs because you have more places. It's hard to punish you.
Oh, yep.
Keep running.
Uh-oh.
Oh? Okay. Here's the reason I do not like this.
Oh, yep.
Is because this guy's looking at you. He sees you charging his punch. This guy's instantly going to press E. Orisa has not used her pull yet. You have no idea when that's coming. This guy, like he's just looking to drop kick your team. I would much rather want to go further behind because of I'm going to explain the idea of attention and sightlines.
Mm-hmm.
This guy knows you're here. If you walk here, he has to look like this, which means he doesn't see anyone else. Your Orisa looks this way, which means that all her abilities and stuff is going to go this way. And she wants to look at you, she needs to turn all the way around. If they both turn around, they're dead. You're dead, but they're dead. Which is the problem of punching tanks. Coming from the same angle as your tanks. But there's nothing that can punish you because you see the Doomfist here, which means there's nothing that can punish you for taking a wider angle. The only thing that's going to like ruin you here is just random cooldowns in the Sigma.
Keep running.
Which is what happens.
Nice! Run!
So I would, if you're first gonna flank, do it properly, right? Don't just
Right,
half hours
right.
a flank.
Right.
Don't just half hours a flank. Do it properly. Like if you want to flank, go ahead. If it's a bad flank, I'll flame you. But if you don't commit to a flank, that's worse than flanking.
Exactly.
Right? At least commit to your play.
Because you didn't. It wasn't a flank, but you didn't have the safety of your team either. So it's like
Yeah,
you
it was
don't get
just-
any of the benefits of flanking. You don't get any of the benefits of playing with your tanks. So you just get all the bad stuff.
Yeah.
Run away, run away, run away, I'll C9 it.
They tried.
They tried. You could already have been in the high ground setup if you
Mhm.
just used a rollout. And if you do not trust your rollout, there's another way as well, which is like it takes a bit more time and forces your cooldowns, but at least you get to the high ground. You can uppercut on top of this, and then you can like punch your way over to this high ground still with your E.
Mm-hmm.
So there are more ways, but like punching this rock, jumping up and Eing, it's like it looks really cool when you do it. Like it's the reason Dan gets like 200 views on his streams because he does that all the time. Just
Mhm.
like yeah, I can do every rollout in the game.
How did I not kill him?
If you were in the high ground here, your flank would have been so much better. But now it's like a half hour's flank, and you would force to play with your team because you back up.
Dig really low.
This is fine-ish because you're using all your cooldowns, but try to land on this so the Doomfist cannot punch you with your E. Doomfist's greatest enemies are doorways, corners, and slight angled staircases. Those are Doomfist's greatest enemies. So if you land with your E here, you still hit their tanks, and their Doomfist cannot punch you, or like no one can punch you for it. But like this play is fine because you have ultimate. But yeah.
So like, in other words, you land, you do the damage in the cone or whatever this way, but he can't punch you into this wall. If he punches you, you just go up the stairs.
Yeah, well, he can't hit you at all because this
Okay.
small thing here stops him.
Oh,
He's gonna collide with this.
from
and
his
not-
positioning, punching this way. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Like if you just make a habit of always landing on slightly curved surfaces, you will live a lot more against Doomfist.
Interesting. Okay.
Ripper.
Where's one in the back? There's literally one in the back.
Again, your ult placement makes no sense. Your ult, I think, should be used to reposition, not deal damage in most cases, unless you have a combo with a pull, in which case you would in which case you would communicate with your team. But this is comp, so you don't. So you just use it to reposition. I would like almost always, like 99% of the time, use my ultimate to set myself up to use my basic cooldowns because Doomfist's basic kit is so good.
Even at this HP?
Yeah, even at this HP, I would set up like behind this car or dropping this mini pack, or up here or something.
Okay.
Just something that forces them to be like, okay, we now need to care about something we can't see.
Right.
Because remember, they cannot look at you while your team is pushing up. They have to focus on this.
Right.
They don't have the resources to commit to dealing with something that is like behind something they can't see. They know where it is and they know it can kill them, but they can't deal with it. Well, yeah. I think your HP, like going back to your team, is never wrong. Dropping in a health pack is never wrong. Going behind them is optimal at times, and dropping into their team is like, yeah, it's pretty good if you have a team that knows how to follow up on it.
And it frustrates me too because like you could see that he's like kind of hesitant. He doesn't want to like go for anybody. But again, he's not really safe here. But he's not really going to kill anybody here either. He's not making an aggressive play, nor is he making a defensive play. It's somewhere in between. Like he could easily die here. But there's no way he kills anybody.
This is probably the worst place on the entire map he could have landed his ultimate.
Yeah.
He could have landed in his spawn and it would be better because there was no chance of him dying in his spawn. But like get the high ground or like drop on top of a roof up here or something and slide down and do some cheesy stuff to regain your cooldowns or whatever. There's so many options of what to do. Landing on a roof is usually also never wrong because they can't reach you anyway and you will slide down in a good position.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have ult. We use everything.
At least you're on the high ground.
Yeah.
That's all I'm gonna say. At least you're on the high ground. So I'm not gonna blame you for not rolling out on that.
We can pull.
Oh, okay. Now I'm gonna blame you for it. Why do you not just punch to get around the corner and just do like a switch punch?
Yeah.
Or just E. You could probably just jump around the corner normally and press E. Like that Reaper would have killed you if he was smart.
Do him in or back.
Good punch. Bad punch.
For Ongen, alright? Go to Waterable stuff.
Oh no.
Take your time. There's no rush to hit the punch.
Mm-hmm.
There's no rush at all. You can just chill and take your time. Use the full time of the cooldown before your punch goes off by itself. Just make sure you hit it. Hitting it is more important than how fast you can do it.
Right.
Which is also something I learned from working with Dan. And he would just take ages for every punch, and he would never miss. When I asked him why, I was like, "Oh, it doesn't matter as long as they die, right?"
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
It's true.
Moira's dead.
Press it,
No, 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 no. Oh no. This is bad.
Yeah. So where was the dunce at again? I think we might need it.
Yeah. We're gonna. Why don't you do the Dawn set? I'll draw the clown nose.
Yeah, good.
There you go, clown nose, and he's got this silly hair as well. There you go.
There we go. Yeah.
This is great. Oh no! Why? No abilities.
Like, this is the second worst thing you can do, but there's one thing that's even worse.
What's that?
You can press E into a Reaper.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not worst yet. You haven't done the one big crime of playing Doomfist in this meta. Yet.
Enemy Doom.
Thank you for dying. The
I
worst
love
thing
it
when
when
you're
people
trying
make
to
mistakes and you get punished for it.
I hate when people make mistakes and they don't die for it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, you would have died here if that wasn't a baboon. But it's like your point has like no significance if I didn't get punished. It's still a mistake when I didn't get punished. It's like you know?
Got him, I got him. Lose.
Lucio.
Doom.
Send him one. Ball.
No, ball.
Ball him.
Ball one.
More, one
Right behind.
to fit. Holy shit, good.
Okay, you managed to finish. Good job.
Oh my god, second pop. That's a cool team.
I think that this would have been finished a minute earlier if you just chilled and took your time. I think so.
So, like, at this point in the VOD, do you think he's rushing things? What other things do you think that he needs to work on, or something that he needs to change how he plays? Because I don't necessarily be like, stop doing this, but like, what are you going to need to do instead?
Yeah, no.
Like,
You need to take more time with hitting your punches. Like, it's the same as hitting normal shots. It's the same thing as just doing anything. If you take your time, you're going to hit more of them. I'd like you to take more high grounds. I'd like to set up more. I'd like to use your ultimate to get out. I'd like you to take new positions after you make a play. Try to not go back into the spot that you just were. Try to use some different, like, you're doing kind of the same thing every fight. You're becoming predictable. Try to use some lingering. Try to use some aggressive setups. Try to do some spawn camping in fights you already won. Try to stop people from soft resetting. Just do things to gain the time and use your mobility to make to gain things from. Because right now you're playing him kind of as Reaper.
Okay. When you're playing Doomfist on defense, does that change how you play the hero much at all? And if so, how so?
He gets a lot better. And the reason he gets better is because you inherently have space. When you inherently have space, you have much more options of where you want to set up, what you want to do, which is why I'm always saying, like, what are you doing next fight? What are you doing? Because you need to take the space while the enemy team is regrouping, while setting up. On defense, you already have the space going into a fight, because you can choose where to set up yourself. So
Now, isn't that dependent on where the enemy team paths, or less so in this map because you know where they're gonna go?
less so on any map because they have to come to you. It's not like they have to contest a point at some point, right? So you can just position according to the point, and you will, as long as you don't get any information,
Yeah.
you will know where they're coming from. And on defense, the never wrong play, as long as the enemy team has Doomfist, is linger. And like sitting here, for example, waiting for Doomfist to come to the high ground and Reaper and just trying to protect it was fine. Because this is the only option for the Doomfist. It's like, right, the reason I said the other Doomfist play, like his Doomfist plan attack was bad, was because if there was a Doomfist here, he would have died.
Right.
So now if the enemy Doomfist makes the same play, which is the only real other option than just staying with his tank and punching Orisa, he will die. But if they do go and punch the Orisa, they're going to force forward the fight before the fight starts. You're going to be down a really important cooldown because of this positioning. Oh no. Okay, it's fine. Well, it's not fine, but it's fine.
Now, what was wrong there? What was wrong?
Everything.
Okay. Okay. What was the biggest issue?
Okay. So let's start by the first thing. First of all, you're flanking, but you're not flanking.
Right.
At least drop from like
Same thing
here.
at end of
If you want
third.
to drop.
Right.
Yeah. If you want to drop from here, at least wait for cooldowns. That's the first thing. Okay. But okay, you do this play. Why do you drop in front of your shield?
Yeah.
Why don't you drop behind the shield? Like it doesn't really change anything other than you taking more damage. And then you get pulled in, which is like, okay, awkward.
Yeah.
Then you uppercut, and then you don't go back to the high ground, because if you go back this way, they can still shoot you. But if you go to the high ground, they can no longer shoot you. Therefore, you can just drop back to your team this way, which is safer. So you take 200 damage here you didn't need to take.
Right.
You would have probably taken 20 damage if you made a different play. Because every single shot that hit you there was aimed at something else.
I don't think they are. They're just pushing man.
Break shield.
I don't see the Doom's just in the back.
Go to the high ground to avoid these pulls. Just get used to it. Just go to the high ground. Like, I'm glad you cancelled that punch.
3, 2, 1.
We need to cut this.
Meta heals need to play safe so I can farm.
Oh,
That's
Why?
Wow. He and his Orisa just fed their brains out.
Yeah. Like, you could have walked inside here if you wanted to stay in this kind of position. But why would you not just walk back to your team? Why would you not try to set up here for next fight like you did in the first fight? Why would you not try to just set something up instead of just standing in the open, not doing anything?
yeah. We
How
need
did
to
I
cut
die?
that. Play for time.
Fuck, he shot me from like 20 feet away. My work is not we can get 2 ticks if we need to. Oh no, we're not gonna be able to.
At least you set up for next point.
Yeah, there's 6 there. Help me with one point.
Orisa. Oh no.
Doom, you were literally just standing there.
Yeah, this is
Let's watch
This
one
is
more
awkward.
fight. Let's watch one more fight.
one more
I
fight.
died.
And on
Okay.
a good note, maybe.
We're gonna actually
Maybe.
go here.
Maybe.
But he's not set up. He's not set up for a good fight, so
No.
be surprised.
You get okay. Well, we have to fight this.
Your Orisa really likes to play Reinhardt. That's a really good punch. Your Orisa would probably have died if you didn't. How could you have gotten out in any other way? Again, like, just land on the side ground here and they can't hit you anymore.
I was sick, not dead.
Okay. So, RIP this Doomfist again.
Fine, these,
So, wrapping things up.
these demos, these Reaper ults,
If
Yes.
you keep, I think like the thing that I personally have been hearing the most is the resetting in the high ground.
Yeah.
You know, using flanks or playing with your tanks, but nothing in between. Because if you're in between, you don't get any of the benefits of playing with your team, and none of the benefits of playing in a flank. You just take more damage, and you're not actually distracting the team that much.
Yeah.
And then,
if your team is here and their team is here, they're shooting at your shield, you're shooting at their shield, and you drop into the middle, you will take damage, right? But if you drop here, you will not take damage. If you drop here, you will not take damage, right? Which is the idea. You just don't drop into crossfire, which you've done a few times.
Okay.
Setting up for next fight is important because especially on attack, but also on defense, but especially on attack, because if you need to have space for them to walk into, which is the same as goats, right? They're going to be forced to use cooldowns, be forced to do awkward things to get the space, and while they're doing that, you can give them the space, trade it for their resources, and then go in an advantageous fight. Which is why you want to hold further ahead than the payload.
Okay.
So
anything else that you have to add for this Doomfist player that you think he could work on or could learn from off the top of your head?
Please learn some rollouts to quickly set up, and please do not use all our cooldowns to reach a Reaper and then sit in front of the Reaper with no cooldowns.
Oh no, yes. All right, man. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it and hope you feel
Thank
better.
you for having me. It was great. Thank you.
All right, cheers, dude.
And I'll see you later.
See you.